Hello students, before we start our chapter, I would like to request you all to watch our introductory 2 videos given by me so that you will be clear about the 3-step strategy to do Dhamaka in physics exams. We have given the videos in the description box, or you can just click on our videos displayed at the end of this video for either introductory 2 videos or the next videos. Okay then, let's enjoy physics by Mr. Patel, who has a long, profound experience of 29 years of teaching physics in Sainik School, Balachadi.
Example 4.12 on page number 160. A current carrying circular loop lies on a smooth horizontal plane. Can a uniform magnetic field be set up in such a manner that the loop turns around itself, that is, turns about vertical axis? Number 2. B. A current carrying circular loop is located in an external magnetic field. If the loop is free to turn, what is the orientation of stable equilibrium? Show that in this orientation, the flux of the total field, that is external field plus field produced by the current in the loop, is maximum. Last, C. A loop of irregular shape carrying a current is located in an external magnetic field. If the wire is flexible, why does it change a circular shape? Let us see the answer to the question number 1. A. No, because that would require a torque to be in the vertical direction, but torque is equal to IA cross B. Area of the horizontal is in the vertical direction. That is, the coil is lying, loop is lying on the horizontal table, so area vector will be perpendicular to the plane, correct? So torque will be in the plane of the table, correct? So there is no torque in the vertical direction, so it will not rotate the coil. Number 2, orientation of the stable equilibrium is 1, where the area vector A of the loop is the same in the direction that of the external field. In this orientation of the loop is in the same direction as external field. So external field is like this direction, and due to the current flowing is also in the direction. Suppose it is in vertical direction, the magnetic field produced due to this, and the external field, they will be in the x direction, that is vertically to the plane. The orientation of the stable equilibrium is 1, where the area vector A of the loop is in the same direction as external field, that is, the angle should be 0. That is the position between A and the B. This A and the B is 0, the torque will be 0, and it is the stable equilibrium, correct? So both the area vector A and the field are in the same line. In this orientation, the magnetic field produced by the loop is in the same direction as external field. Both normal to the plane of the loop. Both are normal to the plane of the loop, thus giving rise to a maximum flux phi of the total field. Now last, C. A loop of irregular shape carrying a current located in an external magnetic field. If the wire is flexible, why does it change to a circular loop? It assumes circular shape with its plane normal to the field to maximum flux. When it is a normal, plane is normal to the magnetic field. This is a magnetic field and plane is normal, so maximum flux, magnetic lines of force will pass through it, correct? Since for a given perimeter, a circle encloses a greater area, the maximum area is acquired by the circle. The circular shape has a maximum area, that is why it acquires a circular shape. Circular current loop as a magnetic dipole. We will see now here the circular current loop acts as a magnetic dipole. We know that the magnetic field B on the axis of a circular loop of radius r, we already studied this, carrying a steady current I, is given by the B is equal to mu 0 I r square upon 2 into x square plus r square is to 3 by 2. Here x is the distance along the x axis from the center of the loop. Its direction is along the axis and given by the right hand thumb rule. For x is greater than r, that is, distance on the x axis, x is greater than the radius of the loop, then equation will reduce to B is equal to mu 0 I r square upon this could be neglected 2x cube. Therefore, mu 0 I pi multiplied by pi and divided by the pi. So, it could be written as a mu 0 I pi r square upon 2 pi x cube. But pi r square is the area of the loop. So, pi r square is area, put this. So, mu 0 I a into a upon 2 pi x cube. Mu 0 m upon 2 pi x cube, that is equal to, therefore b is equal to, by multiplying with the 2 and divided by 2, the mu 0 2 m upon 2 pi, that will be a 4 pi x cube. Say equation number 1. The expression is very similar to that of an electric field due to the electric intensity E due to an electric dipole. The electric dipole field E, correct, is very similar to this. If we substitute the mu 0 by 1 upon epsilon 0 and m by electric dipole moment P, magnetic dipole moment can be replaced by the electric dipole moment, and magnetic field strength, the magnetic field can be replaced by electric field E. We know that the electric dipole moment P is equal to QA, Coulomb into meter, that is Coulomb into meter. Electric field is KQ upon R square Newton Coulomb minus 1. In the equation 1, we get the E is equal to 2P upon 4 pi epsilon 0 x cube, which is the E field for an electric dipole at a point on its. Further, the E field on the perpendicular bisector, that is equatorial line of a dipole, is given by the E is equal to Pe upon 4 pi epsilon 0 x cube. Say equation number 2. Again we replace the electric dipole moment P by the magnetic dipole moment M, and mu 0 by 1 upon epsilon 0 and electric field E by B. So, this equation will become for the magnetic field of a magnetic dipole. In the above equation 2, then we get B is equal to mu 0 m upon 4 pi x cube. Say equation number 3, for x is very greater than r. The results given in the equation 1 and 3, that is equation 1 and 3, correct, become exact for the point magnetic dipole. Thus, the current loop acts like a magnetic dipole. Thus, we can say, conclude from this data that the current loop acts as a magnetic dipole. The dipole moment M is equal to IA. Planar current loop is equivalent to a magnetic dipole of a dipole moment M is equal to IA. I is the current and A is the area, pi r square is the area of the loop, which is an analog of electric dipole moment P is equal to 2 QA. Q is the charge, that is minus Q and plus Q. The two fundamental elements, that is the charges, they constitute the electric dipole. 2A is the separation between two charges. However, there is a fundamental difference between them, is that an electric dipole is built up of two elementary units, that is charges, positive charge and the negative charge, separated by some distance, correct, they constitute a dipole. The dipole moment P is equal to separation between them is 2A multiplied by either of the charge, that is Q. Correct. In magnetism, a magnetic dipole or a current loop is the most elementary element. The elementary element in the magnetism is the, for magnetic dipole is the current loop or a mono or a dipole, that is north pole and the south pole. The equivalent of electric charges, that is magnetic monopoles, do not exist. As in the case of the electric charges, the minus and the plus they exist, but they are separately exist. But in the magnetism it is not possible. No monopole, separate monopole exists, either north pole or south pole, they are always together, or current loop. We know that a current loop produces a magnetic field and behaves like a magnetic dipole at a large distance, r is greater than the A, correct, and is subject to the torque Tm, magnetic torque, like a magnetic needle, correct, compass needle, small magnetic needle. So, current loop acts like a magnetic needle. So, magnetic needle has two poles, north pole and south pole, and they cannot be separated. Even if you bring the bar magnet into two pieces, each piece will have again north and south pole, correct. Every atom has a north and south pole. So, no separate monopole is available or exist in the case of the magnetism, whereas in the case of electricity, the separate or isolated monopole minus q charge or plus q charge, they are available. So, Ampere to suggest that all magnetism is due to circulating current. So, Ampere said that magnetism is due to the circulating currents. This shows that no magnetic monopoles exist. However, elementary particles like electron or proton also carry intrinsic magnetic moment, not accounted by circulating current. While calculating the magnetic moment by current in the current loop, we do not consider the magnetic moments due to the electrons and the proton, but they also carry the magnetism. They shows the magnetism. The magnetic dipole moment of a revolving electron. Now, next topic. Let us see, and we will see the angular momentum and the Bohr magneton. The electron of a charge minus E, that is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb, performs a circular motion around a stationary heavy positively charged. The nucleus is positively charged. If Z is the atomic number, then Z is the atomic mass number, then total charge will be Z. An electron is revolving. Here it is shown, it may revolve in the clockwise or anti-clockwise. Correct? If there are two electrons, they will not revolve in the same direction. One will revolve in the anti-clockwise, another will revolve in the clockwise, like that. The current I produced due to this electron revolvation is I is equal to E upon T. If electron takes a time T, that is the time period, that time taken for one revolution, correct? The current produced is equal to charge upon time. The charge flowing in a unit time, one revolution, that is, what is the time? Time period. And again, time period T is equal to 2 pi r upon V. What is the time taken by the electrons? If it moves with the velocity, revolves with the velocity v, then it covers the distance 2 pi r in the time period t, correct? So, time into velocity is the distance. So, time is equal to distance upon velocity, 2 pi r upon v. Now, magnetic moment, angular magnetic moment, mu L is equal to Ia. I is the current and A area of the circle, that is pi r square. So, mu L is equal to, put this value, correct? So, mu L is equal to Ia, and I is equal to E upon T, and T is equal to 2 pi r upon V. I is equal to EV upon 2 pi r, EV upon 2 pi r. So, EV upon 2 pi r into A, area is r square. So, mu L is equal to pi cut r and r square, that is r, EV r upon 2. Therefore, mu L is equal to, we can multiply by m, mass of the electron me, and divide by me. So, E me V r upon 2 me, we have divided to get the particular result. So, E upon mvr, this is what is this? Angular momentum, moment of a linear momentum is called angular momentum. We have studied in the class 11. So, that is called L. So, L is equal to angular momentum mvr. So, E upon mv is into L, that is equal to mu L. Therefore, mu L, angular momentum of an electron, is equal to, now charge of an electron minus, so minus E upon 2 me into L, correct? And again, now we are introducing this. It shows also that the angular momentum and the magnetic moment, they are in the opposite direction. So, it indicates that the angular momentum L is opposite in the direction of the magnetic moment mu L. If this is plus, this is minus. Instead of electron minus E, for a particle with a charge, positive charge, that is plus q, the angular momentum mu L will be in the same direction. If it is electron, for negative charge particle, angular momentum and the magnetic moment, angular magnetic moments, they will be in the opposite direction. For the positive charge, this will be plus. So, this L and the mu L will be in the same direction. The ratio mu L upon this L, that is equal to E upon 2me, is called the gyrometric ratio and is constant, and its value is according to the Bohr, correct. The mu L upon L is equal to E upon 2me. Now, according to the Bohr hypothesis, the angular momentum L is a discrete set of values. Bohr gave his hypothesis for the stability of an atom that electrons are allowed to not orbit in any orbit, but they are allowed to orbit in some selected orbit in which its angular momentum is multiple integer of n upon h upon 2 pi. So, angular momentum of electron, revolving electron in an atom, that is n h upon 2 pi. N is the integer. N is the integer 1, 2, 3. N is equal to, correct. So, n is equal to 1, 2, 3 up to any number it may be. So, angular momentum is integer multiple of h upon 2 pi. This is the famous Bohr quantization condition, correct. N is an integer, h is the Planck constant 6.626 into 10 to minus 34 joules into second, correct. And from the 1 and 2, the equation 1 and 2, we can say mu L is equal to E upon 2me, introduce the value of the L, that is Bohr condition, n h upon 2 pi, correct. Angular momentum of electron is n h upon 2 pi, only they are allowed to revolve. If n set n is equal to 1, if n is equal to 1, then angular momentum mu L is minimum, that is mu L minimum. Therefore, mu L minimum is equal to E upon 4 pi me into h. Therefore, mu L minimum is equal to E, that is electron charge 1.6 into 10 to minus 19 coulomb into h, Planck constant 6.626 into 10 to minus 34 upon 4 pi me, that is 4 into 3.14 into me, mass of an electron 9.11 into 10 to minus 31 kg. That comes about, correct. So, mu L is equal to 9.27 into 10 to minus 24 ampere into meter square. We know the unit of the momentum, that is dipole moment, that is, or magnetic moment is or current into area. The current's unit is ampere and unit of area is meter square. So, magnetic moment has also the same unit. This value is called the Bohr magneton. Last time this was asked as an objective 1 mark question. So, mu is the magnetic moment, mu L is the orbital magnetic moment, that is dipole moment, magnets are always dipole, and mu S is equal to spin magnetic moment. And in short we call it, but it is a magnetic dipole moment. The moving coil galvanometer. A galvanometer is a device to detect current in a circuit. It is called a moving coil galvanometer because it uses a current carrying coil that rotates in a magnetic field due to the torque acting on it. The principle of a moving coil galvanometer. A current carrying coil placed in a magnetic field experiences a force, experiences a torque which tends to rotate the coil and produces angular deflection. The direction of the force is given by, we know that Fleming's left-hand rule. The construction. It consists of a rectangular coil of fine insulated copper wire of many tons wound on a light, non-magnetic and metallic frame like aluminum, free to rotate about the fixed axis. This is the coil wound on the light, metallic and non-magnetic frame, that is aluminum. The motion of the coil is controlled by a pair of hair springs. The motion of the coil is controlled by the hair spring. These are hair springs. This one, these two, S1 and S2. Hair spring S1 and S2 of phosphorus bronze wire. The inner ends of the springs are soldered to the two ends of the coil. The two ends of the coil, this is the upper end of the coil and this is the coil actually. This is one end. 1 ton. I have shown the few tons here. Here is this is the coil. Here is a schematic diagram given. You can see it. The lower end of the spring is soldered and up, correct. Both are this one. The inner ends, these are called, and these are outer ends. Outer ends are connected with the terminal for battery connection to pass the current. Current flows like this. The inner ends of the springs are soldered to the two ends of the coil, and the outer ends are connected to the binding screw for outer connection with the battery. The coil is placed between the concave cylindrical pole pieces of a strong permanent horseshoe magnet called the pot magnet, NS. This NS, this is the magnet, NS, N and S. The magnetic field is like this. These are the magnetic field lines, correct? Coil is placed. The pot magnet produces a uniform radial magnetic field. Radial magnetic field, that is, the magnetic field lines will be the perpendicular to the plane of the coil for any position of the coil. For uniform radial field, in this field, the plane of the coils remains always parallel to the magnetic field lines for all its position, for any position of the coil. There is a cylindrical soft iron core. This is a soft iron core. Correct? This is a soft iron cylindrical core. There is a cylindrical soft iron core which makes the field radial, also increase the strength of the magnetic field. It strengthens the magnetic field on the center, and it also makes the field radial. The current flows through the coil. A torque acts on it given by the torque magnetic NIAB, as we have seen in the earlier theory, where symbols have their usual meanings. Since field B is radial, A cross B is equal to AB sin theta, that is AB sin 90, that is the angle made by the area vector A of the coil, and the B field is 90, that is AB, because field is parallel to the plane of the coil. A counter torque, the restoring torque TR, R for restoring, is equal to K phi, that balances the magnetic torque Q. Correct? So when the coil rotates, the restoring torque is produced in the phosphorescent wire, that is given by the equation K phi. K is the twist per unit degree, so for phi degree the torque will be K phi. Correct? The phi K is the twist per or torque per unit degree twist. So for phi degree the torque will be K phi. That balances the magnetic restoring force TR. TR, that is restoring torque, is equal to deflecting torque T magnetic. That is, therefore K phi is equal to NIAB. See equation 1, where K is the torsional constant, the spring of the spring, that is K is the restoring torque per unit angular twist. Correct? That is theta is 1, angular deflection. The deflection phi is indicated on the scale by a pointer attached to the spring. The deflection phi is indicated on the scale by a pointer which is attached with the spring. We have already seen the lower end of the spring is attached with the pointer, and it is soldered with the coil end also. Thus, from the equation 1, we have phi is equal to, from the equation 1, we have phi is equal to NIAB upon K. So, NAB upon K into I. NAB upon K is a constant for the galvanometer, is a galvanometer constant, correct? Therefore, this is a constant, so phi is directly proportional to I current. The deflection phi is proportional to the current I flowing in the coil. Now, uses. The galvanometer is used in number of ways. It is used to detect the current in the circuit. It is used in Wheatstone bridge and the potentiometer circuit, as it uses the null method. We have already studied this. But it cannot be used as an ammeter to measure the current in the circuit. It will damage totally if you use it to measure the current in the circuit. You will have to convert it into an ammeter. A galvanometer is because galvanometer is a very sensitive device, and it gives full scale deflection for a current of order of the microampere. For measuring the current in the the galvanometer has to be connected in the series, and as it has large resistance, this will change the value of the current. It has a large resistance, thus if we connect in the series for measuring the current, it will change the value of the current. Due to the resistance, there will be some drop of the current due to the galvanometer resistance. So, it will affect the value of the current in the circuit. But a galvanometer can be converted into an ammeter and the voltmeter for measuring current and the voltage. So, you can convert it. So galvanometer can be converted to an ammeter by connecting the shunt resistance, that is the low resistance connected parallel to the galvanometer device, or it can be converted into voltmeter for measuring a voltage by connecting the high resistance in series with the galvanometer. We will see in the next topic. Conversion of a galvanometer into an ammeter. A galvanometer can be converted into an ammeter by connecting a small resistance RS called the shunt resistance parallel to the device, so that the most of the current passes through the shunt. Resistance of an ammeter so constructed is, so 1 upon R is equal to 1 upon Rg plus 1 upon Rs. Rg is the galvanometer resistance and Rs is the shunt resistance connected parallel to it, correct? So shunt resistance of very less value, 1 or 2 ohms, and galvanometer has resistance about 50 to 150 ohms. So most of the current will pass. We know that according to Ohm's law, the current resistance is less, current will be more. So most of the current will pass through this RS resistance. So this RS and RG, they are parallel. So according to this equation for the parallel connection of resistances, the 1 upon R is equal to 1 upon Rg plus 1 upon Rs. Therefore R is equal to Rg Rs upon Rg plus Rs. If Rg is very great, then Rg is very greater than Rs. This is very small. Then the equation will become Rg Rs. This Rs could be neglected. Rg is very great, very large. So Rg Rs upon Rg, that is equal to Rg cut Rs, almost Rs, correct? So if Rs has small value in relation to the resistance of the rest of the circuit RC, effect of introducing the measuring instrument, such an ammeter is also small and negligible. The scale of this ammeter is calibrated and then graduated to read the current directly, correct? So resistance is very less, so it will not absorb more. Most of the current it will measure. It will not affect the current in the circuit. The current sensitivity of a galvanometer, it is defined as the deflection produced per unit current, that is phi by I. I is 1, then deflection phi is equal to current sensitivity. Thus current sensitivity depends upon the number of turns of a coil, galvanometer coil, and area of the coil and magnetic field B, and inversely proportional to the K, the torsion constant K of the spring. If number of turns is more, current sensitivity will be more. Area of the coil is more, it will be more again, and B is more, it will be more, and K is less, then current sensitivity will be more. Conversion of a galvanometer into a voltmeter by connecting the high resistance in series with a galvanometer. This is a galvanometer, its resistance Rg is the resistance of the galvanometer. Now we want to convert galvanometer into a voltmeter for measuring a voltage. So for converting it, high resistance to be connected in the series. So current flowing through the galvanometer will be very less. Correct? Resistance is more, current will be very less. The HR is a high resistance, symbolized by R. Next, the conversion of a galvanometer into a voltmeter. A voltmeter is used to measure the voltage across a given section. Therefore, it must be connected parallel with the section of the circuit of which the potential difference is to be measured. Ammeter, remember, ammeter is connected in series, whereas voltmeter is connected parallel. Secondly, it must draw a very small current, otherwise the voltage measurement will be disturbed the original setup by an amount which is very large. To overcome this problem, a large resistance R is connected in series with the galvanometer, so it should draw less current. Thus, the resistance of a voltmeter so constructed is Rg plus R is equal to almost R. This Rg is R is very large. The scale of the voltmeter is calibrated to read the voltage value directly. Then scale is graduated in the voltage. So you can see the voltage reading directly. Now voltage sensitivity, it is defined as the deflection per unit voltage. As the current sensitivity is the deflection per unit current, the voltage sensitivity is the deflection per unit voltage. From the equation 1, we have phi is equal to NAB upon K into I divided by V. So, phi upon V is equal to NAB upon K, that is equal to I upon V. Therefore, phi upon V is equal to NAB upon K into I upon V is 1 upon R. Thus, increasing the current sensitivity may not increase the voltage sensitivity as in the case of the, unlike in the case of the ammeter. Because if number of turns increases 2n, that is if we double the number of turns, then phi upon I, that will be 2 phi upon I, thus the current sensitivity doubles. But however, the resistance of the galvanometer also becomes double. So, R is the number of turns become double, the length of the wire will be double, and resistance is directly proportional to the length of the wire, so it will be double. So, N double makes double, the R becomes double. So, in this case voltage sensitivity, this R will be double, so it will be again same. So, Q upon V tends to, if this is 2, this will be 2R. So, 2N upon 2R, that is the same. So, Q upon V, phi upon V is equal to phi upon V, that voltage sensitivity remains unchanged. Now, next one, the numerical. The circuit diagram is given in the earlier figure, that is with the ammeter, conversion of a shunted galvanometer, that is ammeter, and the voltmeter. Correct. Long straight wire in the horizontal plane carries a current of 50 ampere in the north to south direction. Give the magnitude and the direction of magnetic field at a point 2.5 meter east. The current is flowing from north to south. Correct. So, B is equal to mu 0 I upon 2 pi R, mu 0 is 4 pi to 10 raised to minus 7 Tesla meter ampere minus 1. Current I flowing in the wire, that is to the wire is 50 ampere. R is the 2.5 meters. Therefore, B is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 into 50 upon 2 pi into 2.5, that is 4 into 10 raised to minus 6 Tesla. The direction is upward at the point 2.5 meter east. From the point of, that is, which is 2.5 meters, from that it is upward direction. Correct? By Fleming's right hand rule. Example 4.4 on page number 169, a horizontal overhead power line carries a current of 90 ampere in an east to west direction. What is the magnitude and the direction of the magnetic field at 1.5 meters below the line? Correct? Due to that 90 ampere current. Then we know that magnetic field is given by the equation mu 0 I upon 2 pi R. Mu 0 is 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 Tesla meter ampere minus 1. Current I is equal to 90 ampere and R, distance from the wire, is 1.5 meters. Therefore, B is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 into 90 upon 2 pi into 1.5. That's come about, you can say that 2 into 2, that is 2, correct, and 90, this is 50, that is this will become 60, 60 into 2, 120, 120, that into 10 raised to minus 7, that is 1.2 into 10 raised to minus 5 Tesla, correct, you can do it. The direction of the magnetic field is below the, by right hand thumb rule, the direction is given by the B will be toward the south, you can see, correct. The magnetic field is from east, the current is flowing from east to west. If we look from east toward the west, then magnetic lines are anticlockwise. That is, and field, B field is tangent to the magnetic field lines, correct. 4.5 next. What is the magnitude of the magnetic field per unit length on a wire carrying a current of 8 ampere and making an angle of 30 degree with the direction of uniform magnetic field 0.15 Tesla. We know this is the current carrying conductor placed in the magnetic field. The uniform magnetic field is 0.15 Tesla, so it explains the force direction of which is given by the Fleming's left hand rule, this rule, correct. If this is the direction of the magnetic field, this is the direction of the current, then this will be the direction of the force experienced by the wire. So, force is equal to given by I L cross B. Force is in the direction of the, that is perpendicular to the plane made by L and B, that is L cross B. There is LB sin theta. Now current is 8 ampere, theta is 30 degree, and magnetic field in which the current is flowing in the wire, that is 1.5 Tesla, correct. So F is equal to IB sin theta. Now here current and the L wire is which is carrying a current. So L, this is the direction of L, which is the direction of the current, and this is the direction of magnetic field. It makes an angle 30 degree. So force will be IBL sin 30, that is 8, I is 8, B is 0.15, and sin 30 is half, that is 0.6, correct. This will be 4, and 4, 0.15 into 4, that is 0.60, 0.6. The direction is perpendicular to the plane made by L and B, correct. Next, 4.6 on page number 169. A 3 centimeter wire carrying a current of 10 ampere is placed inside the solenoid perpendicular to its axis. The magnetic field inside the solenoid is given by the 0.27 Tesla. What is the magnetic force on the wire? This is the axis of the solenoid, and wire is the magnetic field is along the axis in the case of the solenoid, that is uniform, and along the axis 0.27 magnitude of the magnetic field due to solenoid at the center is given by 0.27 Tesla along the axis. The wire is kept perpendicular. The force will be maximum. Theta is 90 degree. Theta barabar between L and B. This is the B direction, this is the L direction or current direction, that is 90 degree. Sin 90 is 1. So force is equal to ILB sin theta, that is equal to sin theta is 1. The I is 10 ampere, B is 0.27 Tesla, and length is 3 centimeter, that is 3 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter, convert to meter. Theta is 90, that is sin 90 is 1. So that is equal to 10 into 0.27 B into L, 3 into 10 raised to minus 2, correct. 27 multiplied by 3, that is 81, correct. 0.81, this is 0.81, 0.81, that is 10, that is 8.1 into 10 raised to minus 2 Newton. The direction of this is given by the Fleming's left hand rule. I have written in short F, L, H, R. F is at right angle to the L and plane made by L and B. This is the plane made by, this is L direction, this is the B direction. So this is the direction of the force F, IB, ILB sin theta. Next, 4.8, a closely wound solenoid 80 cm long has 5 layers of winding of 400 turns each. The diameter of solenoid is 1.8 cm. If the current carried is 8 ampere, estimate the magnitude of the magnetic field B inside the solenoid near the center. The total number of turns, that is the turns in the one layer is 400, and there are such 5 layers of turns, that is total number of turns will be 400 into 5, that is 2000. So number of turns per unit length, these 2000 turns are in 80 centimeter, that is 0.8 meters. So per meter turn number of turns is 2000 divided by 0.8, that is 2500 turns, 2500. Now magnetic field near the center is given by the equation B is equal to mu 0 Ni. So N is number of turns per unit length, that is 2500 turns. Mu 0 is 4.10 raised to minus 7 Newton meter, ampere minus 1, and current carrying is 8 ampere, correct. Therefore B is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 into N 2500 into 8, that is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 into 2 into 10 raised to power 4, that is 8 pi into 10 raised to minus 3 Tesla, that is this will be 20,000, that is 2 into 10 raised to power 4. So B is equal to 8 into 3.1, pi is 3.14, that is come 2.25, that is 2.5, 25 into 10 raised to minus 3, that is 2.5 into 10 raised to minus 2, it could be written. Next, 4.9. A square coil of side 10 cm consists of 20 turns and carries a current of 12 ampere. The coil is suspended vertically and the normal to the plane of the coil makes an angle of 30 degree with the uniform horizontal magnetic field of the magnitude 0.8 Tesla. What is the magnitude of the torque experienced by the coil? This is just like the current carrying coil placed in the magnetic field experiences the torque, correct, direction of which is given by the Fleming's left hand rule. So, torque magnetic is equal to NIAB sin theta, we know. The N is equal to 20, I is 12 ampere, area is equal to 10 centimeters, that 10 by 100 into 10 by 100, that is 10 to the minus 2 meter square area of the loop, and magnetic field in which it is kept, that is 0.8 Tesla. Theta is 30 degree. Theta is 30 degree. So, angle made by the area vector of the loop or coil and the magnetic field is 30 degree. Therefore, torque magnetic is equal to 20 into 12, N is 10, 20, I is current 12 ampere, area A is 10 to the minus 2, B magnetic field 0.8, and sin theta sin 30, that is half. Correct? This is 12 into 20, that is 240 into point, this is 0.4, correct, into 10 to the power minus 2. Therefore, torque magnetic is equal to 96, correct, 24 multiplied by 4, 96, this is 0.4, so it will be 96 into 10 to the minus 2 Newton meter. So, torque is 0.96 Newton meter is the answer, correct. This is a normal direction, this is a magnetic field direction, this is a normal made by the plane of the coil, that makes it angle theta, that is 30 degree.